Christmas, it's a time to celebrate, isn't it? Time to celebrate. We've just got 4 days left. I hope you're feeling excited now. I know all the children will be. Before I start, let me just share this cartoon that somebody sent me this week. It's a cartoon of the three wise men. Can make it out. Oops, not up there yet. But up, there we go. The three wise men. I'm not sure I know what frankincense is either. Anyway, there we go. So we're all very familiar with the stories about Jesus' birth in the Bible. And I didn't want to make this morning a heavy talk. And so I thought that what I would do is I would take some stories that were written for children instead. So I've got this Jesus Storybook Bible, and I'm going to take a couple of stories from that and then just speak very briefly about them. It's a brilliant book. It creates simple stories with pictures and shows how all of the different stories of the Bible fit together into the picture of God's bigger story, just with Jesus at the centre of it. So the first story I'm going to take this morning is actually the last one from the Old Testament. So it's based on some chapters from Ezra and Nehemiah, and that's just after the Jews have returned from exile in Babylon back to Jerusalem. And it's also from a couple of chapters in Malachi, which is the very final book of the Old Testament. All three of those books were written about 400 to 450 years before Jesus was born. So, if you're sitting comfortably, let me begin. This story is called Get Ready. Have you ever been to a party that lasted a whole week? How about a sermon that went on all day? Well, that's what happened to God's people after they came home from being slaves. They had forgotten how God wanted them to live or who they were supposed to be. So Ezra and Nehemiah read them the rules God had given Moses. But something odd happened. The more the sermon went on, the sadder they all got. Why? Was the sermon that boring? No, not really. It was strange, you see. As Ezra read the book of rules, it worked like a mirror. It showed them what they were really like, and they didn't like what they saw. They saw that they had not been living the way they should. They saw that they were cruel and selfish. We've blown it, they cried. Now God will punish us. They thought they knew what God was going to do, but they didn't. Of course, they might have picked up a clue from Ezra's name, which means help is here, and an even stronger clue from Nehemiah's name, because his name means God wipes away our tears. And that, as you'll see, is just exactly what God was getting ready to do. Ezra looked at God's children. Great, hot tears were welling up in their eyes and streaming down their cheeks. He stopped his sermon mid-sentence and shut the book. "We're having a party," he shouted. So that's just what they did all week long. God wants us to be happy, Ezra said. All day they listened to stories about the wonderful things God had done for his people, how he made the world, how he gave a special promise to Abraham, how he rescued them from slavery, how he spoke to Moses and showed them how to live, how he brought them to a special land, how he rescued them no matter what, time after time, over again, because of his never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever. They remembered how God had always, all through the years, been loving his children, keeping his promises to Abraham, taking care of them, forgiving them, even when they disobeyed. even when they ran away from him, even when they thought they didn't need him. Then God told his children something more. I can't stop loving you. You are my heart's treasure, but I lost you. Now I am coming back for you. I am like the sun that gently shines on you, chasing away darkness and fear and death. You'll be so happy. You'll be like little calves running free in an open field. I am going to send my messenger, the promised one, the one you have been waiting for, the rescuer. He is coming, so get ready, get ready. It had taken centuries for God's people to. But now the time had almost come for the best part of God's plan. God himself was going to come, not to punish his people, but to rescue them. God was getting ready to wipe away every tear from every eye. And the true party was just about to begin. The true party was just about to begin. But there is a gap of 400 years or so before the time is right for Jesus to come. The circumstances had to be right, and people had to be ready. They had to recognize their need for a saviour. They had to understand that God's law revealed they were not living the way they should. They had to recognize that they were often cruel and selfish rather than helping others. Paraphrasing chapter 9 of Nehemiah, the people stood for 3 hours listening to Ezra read from the book of the law. Rules, rules, and more rules. Extra rules, supplementary rules. The law revealed people's sin. After Ezra read the book of the law for 3 hours, the following 3 hours, they confessed their sins and worshipped God. They prayed for 3 hours, or part of that 3 hours. May your glorious name be praised. You alone are the Lord. You made the skies, the earth, the seas, and everything in them. You chose Abraham and made a covenant with him. You saw the misery of our ancestors in Egypt and rescued them with mighty miracles. You gave them the law, Mount Sinai. You gave them bread from heaven when they were hungry, and water from the rock when they were thirsty. But our ancestors were proud and stubborn. Again and again and again they rebelled and didn't follow your ways. But you, gracious and merciful God, you did not destroy them completely or abandon them. But the prayers of the people reminded them of their ancestors' journey with God, their story to date. And as a result, in chapter 10 of Nehemiah, the people make solemn promises to obey the law of God again. They promise not to compromise their faith. They promise to uphold the Sabbath. They promise to cancel debts every 7th year. They promise to make their offerings. And they promise not to neglect the temple of God. And so we come to the end of the Old Testament, with God saying in Malachi chapter 4, verse 2, "But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings. And you will go free, leaping with joy like calves let out to pasture." It's a time to celebrate, isn't it? A time of joy. The Storybook Bible sums up this get ready story with God saying, I can't stop loving you. I can't stop loving you. You'll be like little calves running free in an open field, filled with joy. I'm going to take a break there before I take the second story. I'm going to invite the band to come back up. We're going to sing an old Advent hymn, O come, Emmanuel. Actually, this is probably one of the very oldest hymns that's still sung today. It actually began in the 8th or 9th century as a Latin chants in the 8th or 9th century. So that's the roots of this song. So we come to the second part of our story, or the first story from the New Testament in this storybook Bible, called He's Here. I'm just going to read the beginning and the end of the story because we're all very familiar with it. The middle bit has the angel visiting Mary and the journey of Joseph and Mary going to Bethlehem. Let's take our second story. He's here. Everything was ready. The moment... Pick up the microphone. Not again. Start the story again. He's here. Everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here at last. God was coming to help his people, just as he promised in the beginning. But how would he come? What would he be like? What would he do? Mountains would have bowed down, seas would have roared, trees would have clapped their hands, but the earth held its breath. As silent as snow falling, he came in, and when no one was looking, in the darkness he came. And there in the stable, amongst the chickens and the donkeys and the cows, in the quiet of the night, God gave the world his wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world was born, his baby son. Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle. And they gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger. Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. Because of course he had. So God's plan continues to unfold. God was coming to help his people just as he promised. But how would he come? What would he be like? What would he do? The Jews had been waiting for over 400 years for God to show up. They had been expecting God to come in mighty power and save them from the Romans. But God did not turn up as Wonder Woman like Jodie in last week's carol service, or Superman or any other superhero or supernatural being. God came as a helpless, naked baby, unable to feed or look after himself. Jesus came in the messiness of human birth, in the messiness of a stable and the messiness of life. Our Advent images always look peaceful and serene, don't they? But I'm sure that the birth of Jesus would not have been like that. There would have been horrible smells and dirt and lots of crying. God, the creator of the universe, had become human, starting life as a helpless baby, just like everyone else who's ever. That is amazing, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. In our familiarity with the Christmas story, I pray that we never lose the sense of awe and wonder that should be awakened in us at how amazing it is that God came, made himself human. John, at the start of his gospel, puts it like this. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. The Word has now become flesh. The light of God has now come to shine in the darkness of our world. The law was given through Moses, but God's unfailing love and faithfulness come through Jesus. At the heart of the Christmas story lies the incarnation. God becoming human. God becoming human assures us that we can find meaning and salvation within the physical world, in our humanity. Catholic priest and writer Ronald Rolheiser wrote a book called Essential Spiritual Writings, one that Julie had, and I was just reading a bit extracts from it. He's got a chapter saying that the incarnation is at the heart of all Christian spirituality. The incarnation is at the heart of all Christian spirituality. And within that chapter, he's got a section which was called Born into the Ordinary. And I just want to finish with a couple of quotes from that book. These are quotes from that book by Ronald Rolheiser. He says, Christmas teaches us that God is as much domestic as monastic, a God of the body as well as the soul, a God who is found in barns as well as in churches, in kitchens as well as in cathedrals. Christmas is about God in the ordinary. We need not look to the extraordinary, the spectacular, or the miraculous to find God. God is now found where we live, in our kitchens at our tables, in our wounds, and in each other's faces. So God did not come to earth as a superhero. Most Jews did not recognize Jesus as the Messiah because he was so ordinary. He was just an ordinary human being. So this Christmas, let's look for God in the ordinary things of life as we celebrate Jesus' birth, as we celebrate Christmas and New Year, family and friends. Let's look for God in ordinary things. So I'll ask the band to come back up. We're going to sing a final song.